Sia Vale has always wanted to be chosen for the testing. Every year, select students are chosen by the Commonwealth to be tested for a chance to receive a higher education. Sia's father was an engineering genius who was also tested by the Commonwealth during his youth. The issue is he can't remember anything about his testing. His only memories are nightmarish glimpses that disappear faster than they started. I'm Sarah Cater, and you're watching Aliens, Clones, and Airships. Today we're going to be talking about The Testing by Joelle Charbonneau, the first installment of the Testing series. Before we start, it's imperative that you heed this warning. I will be including spoilers. The good news is the spoilers won't come until the second half of the video. So if you haven't read this book yet, I highly advise that you pause when you see the word spoiler flash across the screen, and then come back when you've finished reading. So first, I'm going to give my spoiler-free review for anyone who hasn't read the book yet, who is kind of testing out the waters to see if it's something they would want to read. Before we get started, I need to point out that if you liked The Hunger Games or Divergent, this book is going to be very familiar to you. Like The Hunger Games, this book is full of tests, life-threatening situations, and rivalry among districts. The lead character is a female who wants to attend and graduate from the university to make a bigger difference within her community and for the entire United Commonwealth. When Sia is chosen for the testing, things don't turn out quite the way she expected, and she quickly learns the horrifying truth behind the tests. The real question is Sia strong enough to pass her testing? I really enjoyed this installment because of the suspense, character development, and intense plot. When I say it's a lot like The Hunger Games, I'm talking about the suspense, the quick read, and the rivalry among characters. Each candidate is under an immense amount of pressure because if they do not pass their tests, well, I guess you'll have to find out. Sia is chosen along with 3 other candidates from Five Lakes Colony. It is up to Sia to decide if she can trust anyone, including from her own colony. But that's all I want to say in the spoiler-free section. I really enjoyed this read because of the present tense writing style, which made it a very quick read, and the suspense, which made you never want to put down the book. I highly recommend reading this book for anyone who loves to read dystopian novels, The Hunger Games, Divergent, or anything of the like. And now, if you haven't read this book yet, I highly advise that you pause and come back later, because I'm about to start the spoiler-filled section. Guys, this book was so much fun to read. Sia is chosen for candidacy along with someone she has known her entire life, named Tomas. It was a lot of fun to see when and how Sia learned she could trust others. One of the most interesting relationships in this story was between Sia and her roommate Rhyme. Rhyme was a very interesting character from the get-go. It was hard to trust her because of her entire thing with her corn cakes. The corn cakes were offered to Sia by Rhyme on the very first day that they arrived. During the testing, Sia did not see Rhyme eat a single corn cake. And that's why Sia decided to keep an eye on those corn cakes, because if she didn't see a single one disappear, she knew Rhyme would not be a trustworthy person. One of the most intense moments between Sia and Rhyme occurs when Rhyme figures out that Sia did not finish the entire written portion of her test. Upon finding that out, Rhyme decides to tell Sia that she does not belong at the university. After that intense moment, Sia is extremely disturbed to find out that Rhyme commits suicide because of the pressure of the testing. Rhyme ends up being the very first casualty in the entire book, and Sia quickly finds out that death is brushed off by everyone involved in the testing. The way they see it, if you cannot take the pressure of the testing, you do not belong here. You have failed because you're weak, even if that means losing your own life. As for Tomas, I had a lot of trouble trusting him from the beginning, so it came as no surprise to me when we found out that his actions were being questioned toward the end of the book. As for the mutated creatures in this story, they reminded me a lot of the mutated creatures from The Hunger Games, and one of the hardest moments to face in this book was when one of the candidates ended up killing all of the mutated humans that came in his path just to save Sia and Tomas, when in reality, they were not the ones that needed saving. And then there was the test with the box and the nail. That was one of the hardest moments to get past, and definitely the moment that made me cry the hardest. Because poor Malachi. And then of course there's the moment where candidates have to go through a series of different tests as a group and decide who was going to accomplish which task. But the issue was, if you try to do one of the tasks that your group members already accomplished, you are severely punished for it. And it was extremely heartbreaking to find out that the person who did that to his group was Will. Finding out that Will was capable of such betrayal, not only to his group members, but then later to Sia and Tomas, was absolutely devastating. And I know the entire point of this story is that you can't trust anyone during the testing, but he just seemed like the last person who would do something like this. And I guess that's the point. You really cannot trust even those who seem the most trustworthy. This book elicited so many emotions from me, whether I was angry at some of the characters, whether I was crying at the loss, and whether I was laughing at some of the cute moments between Tomas and Sia. Each of the different tests seemed extremely realistic to me, and most of the interactions between characters were genuine. The only part I found disingenuous was the relationship between Tomas and Sia for a while there. It seemed kind of forced to me that they were constantly holding hands and they couldn't leave each other's sides. I understand that, they need support and they're each other's rock during this, but it was a little bit too much. It seemed a little disingenuous. Tomas came on a little bit too strong from the beginning, and it continued to stay that way with him. Even Sia seemed a little bit too attached to Tomas, and I guess that was part of why I didn't really trust Tomas from the beginning. He just seemed too nice and too clingy. When we find out that there was an altercation between him and another candidate, it didn't really seem that surprising to me because he just did not seem all that genuine from the beginning. I don't know, I wasn't able to trust Tomas from the beginning, and I know he ended up not being that bad, but at the same time there's still some questions about him that haven't been answered in this book. I guess we'll have to find out in the second one if he really was malicious or if there was a good reason for what he had done. I'm not sure. But overall, I really enjoyed reading this book. One of the best parts about Sia was her independence and not having to be around Tomas the entire time and around Will. She was able to venture off on her own, and when she did, she was a very strong and capable person. She didn't need Tomas, and I feel like he kind of dragged her down at points. I mean, I'm sure he has the best of intentions, but at the same time, this is a book where you can't trust people, and I have a very hard time trusting him in this story, and I'm not sure if that's how I'm supposed to feel. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I'm about to start reading the second installment called Independent Study. I will have a review for that probably next week as I finish that story up. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for watching this review. I know it was kind of long, but I really wanted to have the chance to talk about the moments that I found exciting and sad and heartbreaking, and I hope that you felt the same way, or if you didn't, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend that you read it, and I hope you intended to watch these spoilers. If you liked this review, please like the video, and if you want to watch future videos, please hit subscribe so that you're notified for the next review. As a final year student, I wanted to make sure that I gave my review for this story so that future students who read this book can also be prepared for what happens in the testing. Current students, if you pass your testing, I will see you next time on Aliens, Clones, and Airships.